Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa usalli wa usallam ala Sayyid al-awwaleen wal akhirin, Nabiyyina Muhammadan, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. All praise are due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be constantly showered upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, the master of the first and the last, and his family, his companions, and all those who call to his way and establish his sunnah to the day of judgment. As to what follows, my beloved brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, this is the next part of our series on Ramadan itself. And this is part of the New Muslim Corner. And the New Muslim Corner is established to enable those who have recently embraced Islam, even those who are interested in Islam, to get familiar with the basic pillars and foundations of the faith. It's also a forum where people who are reviving themselves, Muslims who were born in Muslim families, but didn't really accept Islam until maybe they were 25 or 30 years old. So this is an open forum, and I want to deal with some of the issues in the month of Ramadan to make it easy. Again, there are some differences of opinion on a higher level of Islamic teachings, but we are dealing with the basics. And our intention is to give a type of middle road perspective. And that is especially for new Muslims, to avoid any differences of opinions, which sometimes are just cultural differences, but to give you something based upon the actual sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the actual base. So you can judge what happened to Muslims or their opinions once you have a good foundation. So basically what we understood is that fasting is done by people for many different reasons. There are those who fast for medical reasons, some fast for political reasons. There's now the intermittent fasting. There's all types of fasting that people have. But the fast of Ramadan is a special fast. And we learned that the essence of the fast is to gain the consciousness of God. That is the reason why we're fasting. It is not a race to see who can make the best iftar in the evening, or it's not to prove yourself, but it is to get closer to the Creator. And the fast is not meant to be a punishment. So there are some cultures where, in order to release the body from desires, the people punish themselves. So they literally put themselves through difficulties in order to sort of like kill their desires. That is not the Islamic way. The Islamic way recognizes desire, but controls it. So this is one of the key issues in the fast, or one of the key benefits from the fast is self-control. Self-control and consciousness of Allah. And in terms of some of the details that we went through last week, just as a slight review for those who may be new online or those who are new presently, in terms of the sunan, and we say sunnah meaning the way of the Prophet, what he encouraged in the fast itself. Number one, it is that we should, when the sun sets, we should break our fast immediately and not try to do more type of fastings. And there's even a thing called Som al-Wisal, where some of the companions wanted to prove themselves and they fasted straight through. So they go to the next day and they still didn't eat or drink. And this was frowned upon and is not really allowed to do Som al-Wisal, because this is not meant to be a punishment for the body. Okay. Secondly, that is, we try to break the fast with water, with dates. If you can't get that, then something very light. Water, of course, is preferred because it's neutral and doesn't have any regular chemicals in it. And if you can't get dates, some countries don't have dates. So maybe it's some light fruit or something like this that you break your fast with. Okay, and in terms of what we learned, we make a prayer when we're breaking the fast, and the prophetic prayer is Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu. So that is, oh Allah, for your sake I have fasted, and with the food you have provided, I break my fast. Okay, so that's something that we do there. Now, again, in review, because this can get a little complicated, and when Ramadan starts, inshallah, we can be fast. Then you're going to see some questions are going to come up, right? Some things that you heard now, you didn't recognize it till you start fasting. So the more we go over this is better for you to be able to really understand it. So the things that you need to stay away from if possible. So this is called makruh, which is undesirable. So there are actions that are undesirable that we should try to avoid. And one thing is, of course, we're fasting from everything, right? No drink, no food. And so it's excessive gargling. So people who gargle, even when you're making ablution, there is a form of gargling that we do when we make ablution, but this time it should be just in the front of your mouth. Okay? And even heavily putting water up into your nostrils, try to avoid this. Also, in the sense of husband and wife, in that case, kissing and hugging, and that, because we're trying not to arouse any desire in Ramadan. And we also learned that chewing gum or chewing tobacco or any substance that people chew. In East Africa, they chew a plant which is called qat or mira. They call it in Swahili. That's not permissible. In India, they also have a thing called pan. And the pan is a leaf. The leaf in itself, there's nothing, but they put substances in the pan. Okay, so pan chewing also, we should not be doing while we're fasting. Next, we learned that tasting food, that if when you're cooking, it's undesirable to be tasting the food because there's a possibility it might go down. So you have to just go with your instincts, the amount of salt that you normally put in, and hope that your husband or wife will not be upset when they taste the biryani, or whatever it is, right? This is Ramadan. We have to be merciful. And cupping or bloodletting, that is a practice. It's still done, where they actually cup the blood and take out the bad blood from the body as a medical practice, undesirable. Things that break your fast, any liquid or food that is going into inside your mouth, down into the jawf. So that means down inside your body area, especially the stomach area. It is not, this will break your fast. Okay? And then the onset of menstruation, when that comes, that will also break the fast. And deliberate inhaling of tobacco or drugs, this is not permissible. This will break your fast, literally. Okay? Any questions up until now? This is a forum, so if you have any questions, the floor is open for any questions. Yeah.
For a female that's pregnant, they're not permitted to fast, right?
No, when somebody's pregnant, she can fast if she's strong enough, to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. However, it should be under the care of a doctor. Other family members should watch the person, and because the danger is twofold. One, it could be a danger to her health, personally, or it could be a danger to the child. So therefore, if she's feeling really weak and sick, then she can break the fast. Some people even do a fast one day and break another day and a fast. However you can, that person can, but it is permissible for her to fast. It is permissible. Okay? Question?
Does this mean that she has to make up the entire month of fasting for the
If what happened?
If they say she's not able to fast that month after pregnancy.
Right. So anybody who can't, there are the categories I didn't go over because it's way up. If a person's sick or traveling, then you can break your fast. And so, if she's really weak and whatever, she would be in the category of somebody who's sick. They're not well. So you just make up one day for each day. So if she missed 17 days, then it's just 17 days to make up. It's based upon how many days. Okay? Yeah?
And then, like a woman is pregnant, it would make sense after they were breastfeeding the child, and then they're also like allowed to skip on fasting. Do they also have to make up those days as well?
Yeah, so once she has the baby and she's breastfeeding, then if she's breaking the fast because of her own weakness, then she'd make up a day. But if she breaks the fast because of the milk, then she makes up, most scholars say she makes up the day and then also pays the fidya, which means you feed a poor person for every day. Because she didn't break it because of her own. So the scholars say, just to be safe, do both, the fast and the fidya. Okay? All right? I don't know if there's anything online. If you can check here and there, because Tahmid is doing 2 programs tonight. So it doesn't seem like anything right now. And so what are some of the actions permitted while fasting? It is permissible to brush your teeth. And generally, people will have a miswak, which is a neutral type of stick. Try to avoid a peppermint stick, or in some countries they have like a toothbrush type of thing. It can actually make suds in your mouth. Some of those have flavor. Try to avoid those. And normally during the day, if you're going to brush your teeth, if you just have the toothbrush without the toothpaste during the day. However, it is permissible, say in the morning, it is permissible to use toothpaste. Don't try not to use too much of it. But you need to rinse your mouth until you don't taste it. Right? You'd have to keep rinsing it till you don't taste it. And realize that even though you brush your teeth, it's not going to completely take away, get rid of the bad breath that comes from fasting. Because that's coming from your stomach. It will to a certain extent, but it won't completely, take away, the bad breath. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that the khuluf fem as-sa'im, that this bad breath of the fasting person is sweeter to Allah than the sweetest perfume misk. So you're getting a blessing for it. Although you won't get a blessing if you work in an office, right? With your colleagues. Right, so you got to try to stay away a little distance from people or whatever, and learn how to move in Ramadan. But again, you can rinse your mouth during the day, and if you rinse it and everything, and use a miswak stick, a thing, you can be cleaning your mouth. Also, you can take a shower, or you could bathe in water, but your head shouldn't go under the water, and you shouldn't be in a position where water can enter into the body. Okay, and then at nighttime. You eat and you drink until from sunset to the next dawn. Traveling, we also learn if you have a purpose for traveling, then it is permissible to travel. But don't just travel to escape Ramadan, because a traveler can break their fast. So people who intend to travel in Ramadan, that's wrong if they're doing it to escape the fast. Injections are also permitted. But not the injection that goes into your vein, and it's actually feeding the body. So the one that goes in, the intravenous, and it's feeding medicine into the body, or nutrients, that one would break the fast. And normally that one means you're sick anyway. So it's logically. But if it's just an injection there, then it's okay. Even technically speaking, even if they had to take your blood, That in itself doesn't break your fast. Okay? And if a person gets a cut, it doesn't break their fast. The only time is that if it's a cut and a lot of blood is coming out, then obviously that person's sick anyway. I mean, they're in trouble. So that, a lot of blood, then no. That would break the fast. Also, using oil or ointments, things like that, is permissible in Ramadan. Perfumes and whatever is permissible in Ramadan. Okay? Any questions on this so far? There's one there.
If they're asking if a person who's having problems with an ulcer can avoid fasting.
With an ulcer. Okay, depending upon the severity of the ulcer, with a doctor. But for some people, without having food or liquid in the body, that ulcer can become inflamed or whatever. So if a doctor's saying no, then they could break their fast, as a sick person, and then they would feed a poor person for every day that they miss. Okay, they feed the poor person. Sometimes there are ways to overcome the ulcer or calm it down with the types of food that you eat. Or there could be a medicine that you take, and you take it in the morning before you start the fast. And then during the day, nothing's coming into your body, and then in the evening, you can take it again. So if the doctor will allow that, then it is possible. What is excused? It is excused to swallow your own saliva. That might sound strange, but some people are so extreme that even the liquid, they think that the liquids are in their mouth, that their mouth created. If you're swallowing that, it's like you swallowed water. So they spit it out. That's extreme. That's extreme. Okay, so it's excused. And vomiting, if a person just didn't feel well and, they vomited, light vomit, that's, of course, if it's a heavy vomit, you're sick. So the person, just use your logic, right? But if just a little bit, in the first couple days, your body's going to go through some changes. So if it's just a little bit, then it's excused, okay? And self-induced vomiting is not, you don't do that, self-induced vomiting. Then if you're working on the job or in an area where you inhale dust or smoke or things like that, then there's nothing wrong with that. If it's on the streets or, wherever, it's excused, okay? And if you eat or drink by mistake, and in the first couple days, people can make mistakes, especially if you're used to drinking at a certain fountain or a certain time of day, and it's the first day of the fast, your body may, want to drink because it's your habit. So once you recognize that you've made that mistake, it's okay. Continue the fast. Because according to the Prophet, peace be upon him, Allah was the one who gave you that drink or gave you that food. Okay? So these are some of the things that are excused there. So the fasting day, I want to just look again at, in a practical way, let's look at a fasting day. Okay? And it starts in the morning with Sahor. And Sahor is the early morning meal. So based upon when the dawn prayer comes in, if the dawn prayer, for instance, comes in at 6:05, just saying for instance, then you would get up with enough time to be able to take a light meal. And it's preferable, to prepare something even before, the evening before. Be structured. Don't just get up and say, what am I going to eat? So it's like better to have a plan as to what you're actually going to eat. And you can eat and drink right up until the time. If it's 6:05, for instance, it's possible to go right up until the time. Okay, so if a person woke up at 6:03, their alarm clock went off and they threw it away because they were tired, You know, and then 6:03, they said, oh Allah, you got 2 minutes. Okay, what would you eat? If you're caught in this thing, what would you do, for instance? What would you do?
Chug my water.
Water, that's smart. That's smart, because your body's going to need water. What else could you possibly do?
Electrolytes.
Right? Any electrolytes, whatever, you know, if you got that set for you. You only got 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. A date is probably a good idea actually too, because dates have energy, right? Or a banana or something like that, something that's got a lot of energy, you know, in it. Don't grab a samosa though. Some will go for a samosa. That probably is not a good idea at that point in time. Okay? So, Sahor, there's no set foods that you have to eat at Sahor. And according to different cultures, they eat different foods. We tend to here eat, you know, and it's good sunnah, something light but solid. Okay, so a solid oatmeal, you know, if you like eggs or, you know, something like that, something solid, you know, but not too much. And it's based upon where you live. I was in Nigeria one year with the Muslim students there in Lagos. And they said, okay, we're going to do a TV program before Fajr. That's how dedicated Muslims they are, right? There's hundreds of people watching the TV before Fajr, right? Most of us are dead sleeping, right? So I had to go and do the TV program, right? So we went, we did the TV program, and then there was some time left, you know, for the Sahor. They give some time for the Sahor. And we went, this is Nigerian, and they had food, meat, yams, plantains, salads, like they eat, right? And some cultures, they eat in the morning, right? And maybe if you're in a culture where you do a lot of physical work, you know, then it is good to take, you know, some food. However, I would avoid this, eating too much, especially spicy food. I know we love our spice, right? We love the pepper. But what you eat in the morning is going to return later on during the day when you belch. It's in your stomach, right? So if you ate garlic, onions, spicy things, that's what's going to come out of your mouth later on. So your khuluf, that bad breath coming out of that garlic eater's mouth, is going to be different than the person who had oatmeal, right? Just oatmeal and milk. Okay, so think about this. Make a plan. And make it according to your health needs as well, because we have different needs. So structure it. The more you structure your Ramadan, usually the more successful it is, because we're not shocked. We're not shocking the body. That's why it's good if you can fast some of the days in Sha'ban. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used to fast, you know, a lot in this month, now going up. Although, you know, the last 3 days, 2-3 days, then you should avoid fasting in those final days. Okay, so this is the Sahor in the morning. Okay, any questions on this morning meal? This is Sahor. The Prophet said, "Tasaharu fa inna fi sahori baraka." He said, take this morning meal, because in it there are great blessings. So we consider when you take that meal, you're getting blessings. Some people say, I don't need a meal, I'm strong. No, you're getting blessings to do this, because the object or the methodology in Islam is the middle road. It's not to overstress yourself, because when you overstress your body, then you can't do other things. You're too tired, or you're too hungry. And the object in Ramadan is to be normal, is to function, right? So be balanced as much as you can.
The timing when it said to stop fasting, does that align with the Adhan for Fajr, or is it just when the beginning of Fajr?
Yeah, so that will align with the dawn, whatever it is on your prayer chart. Like I say, if it said Fajr is at 6:05, then you have to break before that. Some people, in some of the calendars, they'll do it early, before that. And that's that was done in order to protect your fast. But if you woke up after that extra time they gave and you ate something, it's not wrong. It's wrong when Fajr comes in.
So if you are, let's just say, making up your fast on the other times of the year where you don't have a chart that's from the mosque that says exactly when to stop eating, you would just align it with the beginning of Fajr.
Right. However, you determine, the Fajr.
Okay.
You do. Like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran is saying, that you should eat and drink in the morning until you can distinguish between the white thread and the black thread. That's what the Quran says. Okay? And so one of the Sahabas, he had a black thread and a white thread. And he was like looking at them. And the Prophet saw him and said, no, it doesn't mean that. It means when you look at the horizon, there's a line that goes across the first light twilight. It's like a line. That's the white thread. It's that twilight. That's, when Fajr is coming in. Okay? And like I say, for new Muslims, you get a calendar, it's okay, stay with it, try to avoid. There's some slight differences of opinion on things, but just avoid these things. Get a calendar in a masjid or a group that you feel comfortable with, and that's fine. Go with that, your intention is right. Okay, so this is now the Sahor. And next, you're fasting for the complete day. And that means no eating, no drinking, no sexual relationships at all. And you should actually try, because our fast is more than just eating and drinking, try to avoid any bad deeds, any habits, bad habits. If a person smokes cigarettes, this is the time to finish smoking. Whatever it is, try to do that during the time. And the Prophet ﷺ said, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَى الْجُوعِ وَرُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَى السَّحَرِ. He said, there are some people who fast and they get nothing from their fast but hunger. That's all they're getting from it. They're just hungry, right? And there are others who stand in the night, in their night prayer, and they get nothing but sleeplessness. What did he mean by that? He meant that there's something more than hunger in this. In other words, this is a lesson for us. You're being made hungry for a reason. One of them, as we discussed, is to be able to emphasize with the poor, those people who don't have food. Now you know what it feels like to be suffering. We can never know. Here in Canada, probably, may Allah forbid, the feeling that the people in Gaza have now, who are to the point of starvation, in famines, what was in Yemen and parts of the Sudan now, when you have famine. But at least we can feel, what it's like to be hungry. The weakness in the body, and so there's something more to the fast than just hunger. And praying in the nighttime, there's something more. You're not just standing up there. It's not aerobics exercises. You're standing up at night for a reason. It's there. So we're fasting during the day. Again, make a plan. So if you have some control over your life, try to avoid crowded areas, especially walking through malls and places where the smell of food is there. Try to avoid these places if you have some control over your life. Right, so make a plan, for your fast, because you want to do other things. You want to read the Quran as much as possible with meaning. Make a plan for yourself. Say, okay, in Ramadan, because I'm not spending time looking for lunch, looking for snacks, I have extra time. Make a plan. Say, I would like to read this book, certain amount of sayings of the Prophet. I'd like to do, make some sort of targets for yourself that you can make in Ramadan. This is good. Some people make targets, they say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? That's not a good target to set. Okay, if you do it right, you probably will. But the problem is some people, because you're fasting and then nighttime comes and you got to eat food. So, we'll get a little weak. So some people, and then you go to visit your friends and they're serving you nice foods. So some people gain weight in Ramadan. That might sound strange, but they gain weight because they're eating more greasy, sugary foods in Ramadan because their body's saying, well, like, I suffered all day, right? So do something for me. So there's the samosas, right? You might not normally eat that many samosas, but some people eat the samosas. I know some brothers, they break their fast with a pile of samosas. That's before their meal. Okay? They wouldn't normally do that, but they do it in Ramadan. That's not really, really getting the most out of the month. Okay? This is an opportunity for us. It's a spiritual opportunity. And we'll learn more about the spirituality as we go along. Now we want to deal with some of the foundational rules. So you go all day, and then the next is your iftar. So that's the breaking of the fast in the evening, and again with date, water, light fruit. Muslim cultures have some really nice things in the cultures as well. In many of the cultures, they have a type of soup that they make, and so you get a nice warm soup, which is good, and depending upon which culture you're in. And that's a good idea. There's some have this faluda. It's like a pink, it looks pink, it's milk, with a pink or reddish thing, it comes out pink, faluda, right? And so there's different things which are nice within the cultures. You can take, the advice is that when you're breaking your fast, at the point of breaking the fast, it's better to be light, right? To break the fast with light things and then make prayers, then do your Maghrib prayer. And then afterwards, as your body is now accustomed, to the food, then you can eat. Okay, some people, when the adhan is going off, then they have their food is there, they're ready. And they eat. But then they have difficulty making Maghrib Salat. And then you're hurting yourself. You're actually harming the body by taking too much at once. Okay, so again, make a plan, do a system, and then your body can nicely, get into the system. And really, if we say to ourselves, the less food that we eat is actually better for us. If we're just eating lighter even than normal, it's actually better. Okay? And watch the foods based upon, your health needs. Okay? So this is the fasting day of the person. You have to avoid, if you travel to some Muslim countries that have Islamic culture, but maybe they don't have the real spirit of the Sunnah. And in some countries, when Fajr comes, okay, now your fasting begins, they go to sleep. And they sleep all the way until Dhuhr prayer. Now, some countries it's hot outside, whatever, but this is what they do. They sleep all the way till Dhuhr, afternoon prayer. Then they get up and they make Salat, if Allah had mercy on them. And then they go back to sleep. And they sleep all the way until Asr prayer, which is the late afternoon prayer. Okay? And then they make the Asr prayer if Allah has mercy on them. Now between Asr and Maghrib, they get busy. Now they're making their samosas and their drinks and everything. And then they break their fast. And then they eat. After Maghrib, they eat and they drink all night until Fajr comes. Okay? And then make Fajr, drop down sleeping. That's the wrong concept. Because Ramadan, if you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, we will be going over certain things as our classes will continue in Ramadan, right, to take you through all the different aspects of it, give you some experiences in Ramadan. You'll see that, the Prophet ﷺ and his companions and Muslims throughout history made great accomplishments in Ramadan. They did a lot of things that they couldn't do in other parts of the year. So it should actually be strengthening us. It should strengthen. If you do it right, it will become a strength and not a weakness. If your body feels a little bit weak, don't feel bad, because it's natural. It's natural. But if you do it right, inshallah, by the hopefully after the first third of the month, it should become a pattern now. You should be used to it, and you can really start doing a lot of things. And you might find that you feel lighter and better during the day than you did before. You don't need to drink coffee. Right? You can get away from a lot of the habits. Okay? So that's the fasting day for the people. Anything online? Nothing.
Do you want to clarify that during Ramadan it's going to be Sundays?
What's that?
Or during Ramadan it's going to be Sundays, as you mentioned?
Yeah, so at the end we'll talk about what we're going to do, inshallah.
What were some of the prophetic foods for Sahor and Iftar during Ramadan?
Yeah, I mean, it's, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was an Arab living in the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, so therefore, that partly affects the foods, that he ate. So there's nothing really prescribed that you have to. He ate very simple, foods, and he rarely ate meat. Okay, maybe I don't know, once every week, 2 weeks. Now in many of our cultures, if there's no meat, there's no food. They need the meat. Okay? But that's not really the sunnah. It's to eat light. Okay? But he did like melons, things like melon. Of course, figs and dates. Things like that. He enjoyed. But it's not, you could look it up and see some of the things, but it's not prescribed. The only foods that really, is mentioned is water and dates, to try to do that. The rest is not prescribed.
There's one recipe I saw from this nutritionist. She's Muslim, and she keeps dates in water overnight with a little bit of salt. And for Sahor she has it.
Okay.
I did that last year. It was nice, refreshing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. Again, based upon what your body needs and whatever you should know. For some people, if you have high blood pressure, that salt might not be good. Right, so you got to base it upon, your physical needs as well. Okay, now the next issue that we want to look at, and this is part of your fasting day, and that is Taraweeh prayers. And this is something that you will encounter, as a new Muslim. Right away, you're going to encounter this, and it's good to have, a balanced perspective, of Taraweeh prayers. Now, the word Taraweeh prayers comes from the Arabic raha, and raha actually means rest. It's a restful prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ used to say to Bilal, radiallahu anh, his companion who used to make the call to prayer, he used to say, Arihna bis salat, ya Bilal. Relax us with prayer, Bilal. In other words, when salat came, it was a relaxing time. Okay? It's not a up and down. You're supposed to relax when you pray. And that's actually how salat is supposed to be. Some cultures are very rigid and they go up and down real fast and whatever. But if you look at the prophetic prayer, they actually read slowly. Even in between verses, they paused a little bit. And then when each position, they relaxed until their bones, actually joints went into the thing and relaxed. So the whole prayer is supposed to be relaxation. So what Taraweeh is extra night prayers Tahajjud is a name of a prayer, which means night prayers, which are extra things you do. But this is night prayers in Ramadan. Okay? So, you get I want to give you a balanced position on this and open the floor for questions, because you're going to get different feelings and different positions. But I'm going to give it to you from the root of this. And that is, you go back to the Sunnah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, his house was attached to the masjid. So he used to come out of Aisha's house and then go right into the place to lead the prayers. So on one evening, you know, different reports, some in the beginning, some sort of middle, he came out and then he led the prayers. And then the next evening, came out, led the prayers. And then on the third evening, he didn't come out. He didn't lead it in a group. Okay, he made it by himself. And when they asked him, why didn't you do it? He said, I didn't want you to think that you had to do this. I did not want you to think it was obligatory. Because Taraweeh is not obligatory. Highly recommended, strong sunnah, but not obligatory. Okay? That's the first thing you need to know. Especially as a new Muslim. Because as a new Muslim, this is a struggle. And I said, like myself, many years ago, I embraced Islam. Right? And I embraced Islam 2 days before Ramadan. And I was serious. I was serious. And so I fasted, and they took me to the mosque. It was the Jami Mosque, if anybody knows the place on Dundas. Took me to the mosque in 20 rakats. They're doing 20. As I used to play basketball, and my knees were hurting me, right? And I said to the brother, I said, if this is Islam, I don't know if I can make this, man. He said, no. Rest. You don't have to do all of these things. This is an extra prayer in the month. This is nothing wrong, right? Although some people are rigid with it. They're rigid. The reality is, the sunnah is that the Prophet, peace be upon him, Aisha reported, he never prayed more than 13 rakats is a unit of prayer, right? Normally we do 2 rakats in a unit. He never prayed more than 13 rakats on any night. And that includes your extra witr prayers and your extra sunnah prayer. He never prayed more than 13. It's not recorded. Okay? You might not hear that when some people are teaching you this, right? You might not hear that. But that's the reality. After his time, because he didn't do anything regular, there were varying amounts of Taraweeh prayers being done by the Muslims. Okay? Some were doing 8, which is basically what the Prophet used to do, 8. He never did more than 8. Some were doing 14, some were doing 20, all types of numbers. So the second successor, Khalifa, Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anh, he wanted to organize the Muslims, because he was the one that really organized the Ummah. And so he said to Ubay ibn Ka'b, radiallahu anh, who was one of the great readers of Quran, he said, Ubay, lead the salat, and we will pray 20 rakats. Because some were doing more than that. Some were doing less. So he thought that a medium number would be 20. So he said, do 20 rakats. And they did 20. And that was established to do the 20 rakats. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, had said, alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnatul khulafa ar-rashidin al-mahdiyin. He said, follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs. So that sunnah of Umar that he set is a good one to do, and it is strong. Okay, so really, the mid-range position, we're supposed to be relaxing, right? So you have the choice to do either 8 rakats or 20 rakats. It's a choice. And you'll see that some masjids, based upon their reading, they will do 8, some of them will do 20. And you have your choice to do either of the two. There's nothing wrong, because the idea of Taraweeh is to relax. Okay? So this is the basic position. So I want to open up the floor for any questions that anybody may have. Yeah. Okay? There was a question here, a sister?
Oh, is this, how much rakats does this masjid do?
This masjid does 20, but you will see after 8, a large amount of people, a growing number of people actually, who are leaving after 8. Before, it wasn't that many, right? But a growing amount of people are leaving, after 8. And this, again, it's relaxed. We have our lives, and they got to go to work, or, whatever it is. It's okay. Okay, but what you got to realize, too, though, when the Prophet did 8, they were long, right? It was long. Okay, so, but again, it's all based upon relaxation and what's best. Now,
When was the Taraweeh prayers established?
it was established in the time of the Prophet. He did Taraweeh prayers.
Was it like after?
It's after Isha, so you make Isha prayer, and then there's 2 rakats of Sunnah that you do after that, and then after that is Taraweeh prayers.
No, I'm asking was it after the 5 prayers were established, or was it?
Yeah, it's after it was after the 5 prayers are established. Yeah, question.
Is there anything wrong with doing 4 or 12 or 16? Is it specifically supposed to be either 8 or 20?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing any number, because it's all based on relaxation. However, it's good to be following the Sunnah. And we need to condition ourselves to try to be as close to the Sunnah as possible. And so therefore, it is good to do, if you're tired, or, if that's your rhythm or what you believe, do the 8, and then leave, or you can do the 20. Either way, you're okay. Like, nobody should feel bad, with doing one of these. Some masjids, after 8 rakats, they're leaving, and the ones who do 20 are looking at them, look at these hypocrites. These hypocrites are leaving. Astaghfirullah. They say when they see you leaving, like, Astaghfirullah. That's wrong. It's wrong, because the Prophet he never did more than 8. And most people don't know that, especially in those masjids that are harsh on 20. They don't know the other argument, right? Okay, so either way is fine. And those masjids who are rigid on 8, and they say the Prophet did 8, so I'm only going to do 8. No, Umar ibn Khattab, he established 20, and that's the Sunnah that was advised to follow. So it is good to do the 20. And you get more blessings too, right, if you can, do it. Nothing wrong. You're getting blessings. Okay, so it should be relaxed, and that's the spirit, of Taraweeh. Question.
What was the Arabic word for relaxation or relaxing? Could you spell it out, please?
Raha. Raha is like the verb. Raha.
Could you spell it out in Arabic slowly, please?
Okay, it would be Ra,
Yeah.
Aleph, and then Ha.
Okay.
That's the verb.
Okay.
So if you look up Raha, then you'll see Taraweeh. Yarihu. Raha Yarihu.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm getting path, road, way. Or is that also another word for those 3 letters?
What else is it?
Okay. I spelled it wrong.
Oh, okay.
I'm still learning.
No problem, man. No problem. That's good. Yeah. More questions. Any online?
It's on fasting though.
Okay, let's hold the other ones there.
What's the format of the Taraweeh prayer?
What's the form?
The format?
The format?
Yeah, because I know it's like multiple rakats, but.
Yeah, so basically, you do Isha prayer, and then you see there is 2 Sunnah prayers, which are your extra prayers, that the Prophet ﷺ used to do regularly after Isha. So you do those Sunnahs, and you'll see people standing up for that. And then Taraweeh starts. Okay, and there's no iqama, there's no call to stand up, as-salatul jamia, they'll say that, the prayer is begun, and then they'll do 2 rakats, and then you stop. 2 rakats, and you stop. Now, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Khulafa, they used to actually rest after the 4, 2, then they would rest, and relax a little bit. And then 2, and then 2. So it goes like that. Okay? And but what you'll see here is, because we are on a time framework as well, so you'll see people moving through, the rakats, and then they'll go straight, then 8. 8 is the gap, and then you see a lot of people getting up. Don't be shocked. See, a lot of people get up, and then you'll see some people will stay. And this is a mistake too. Those who get up should not be talking to. They should just leave, because they can, cause confusion for the people who are praying. They should respect the people who are making the 20, and they should talk outside the masjid. But the idea is to feel relaxed with both. And this masjid is one of the masjids, where people are relaxed with both. Okay, there are some masjids that are rigid with 8 or rigid with 20. Right, but it shouldn't be like that, especially for a new Muslim. And if you feel that you can't, this is long, because you're standing up for a while now. If you feel you have to sit down, even on a chair, or you feel you can't do more than, say, the 2 or the 4, that's okay. And it's also permissible for a person who does not do it in the mosque. You could actually do your rakats at home. You could do it at home too. And it's all right. That's the spirit. The spirit is more important for us than, arguing over some of the details. Okay, we want a middle row position. Any other questions related to this online? Floor is open, yeah.
Are there specific prayers, specific surahs that you should be reciting?
I mean, in Taraweeh?
Yeah.
No. It's based upon, what you'll see in the masjids is that they will go, start from the beginning, and because we have Quran readers, and they will go right through it. They'll do a section of the Quran, a section and a quarter or so, every night, like that. They try to finish on the 27th night, and you'll see what that means later on. So there's no set verses that you have to read. You read as much as possible. Some scholars have allowed, especially if you're at home, that you could, stand and you could read from the book. Okay, you stand and you have the book there, and then read, from it, and then put it down, and then that is permissible. Although it's much better to read from what you have in your memory. But scholars have allowed the reading from the book itself.
If you don't know many surahs, but you want to lengthen the prayer, you can recite more than one or repeat them in the same rak'ah?
I guess you could, but it's not necessary, in a sense. You could actually, when you're in the bowing position, ruku', or in the prostration, you could lengthen the amount of time of tasbih in prostration. You can do, in the prostration, you can do 50 of them. You can do long. So you can lengthen it like that. But to repeat a chapter over and over again, that doesn't really make sense. It's not necessary to do that. No. Yeah.
I've seen congregants hold a mushaf, just kind of read through or follow through while the imam's reciting.
Yeah. Some people do that, but that is not recommended. The strongest positions that I've heard is the one who's leading the salat. But the ones who are following the salat, there's no reason why they're not leading the salat. So why do they have to, do that? Maybe sometimes there may be somebody who is correcting the imam officially. and that person may have it in order to help the imam there. But everybody just grabbing the thing and everybody's reading like that, no, because there's extra movements that you're doing, and it's not really recommended for everybody.
I've always understood they're trying to also finish the Quran while they're listening to the Imam, right? So by the time Taraweeh is done, they're going to finish the Quran too. That's at least how I understood it.
So are they reading something different than the imam?
No, they're following with the Imam, but they're also reading along, right? So
Right.
by the time the 20 rak'ah or the 30 days are done, the entire Quran's done for them too.
Right, but the thing is, though, is that if you're listening to the imam, then it's done for you too.
I think some people read the English actually.
That's what it is.
They read the English.
Because if you don't understand, right, it can be
Yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to concentrate, so they read the English.
That is not recommended. That's not recommended. Because that's going to throw you off in terms of a lot of things, even the page, turning the pages. And it's extra movements that can actually invalidate your prayer. That would not be recommended. Okay? So it is good, however many times that you can come, to come to the masjid or any of the masjids and make it in a group. Some people even do Taraweeh in their apartment building, or their families might come together and somebody reads. You can do it in different facilities. It does not have to be done only in the mosque. It can be done in other facilities. Okay? That is the spirit. Go ahead.
Are we allowed to read Surah Al-Fatiha after the Imam has read his own?
Okay, so in terms of reading the opening, in the prayer itself, the main part of the prayer is to read the Fatiha, the opening chapter. Okay? So there are different schools of thought, but basically when the Imam does the Fatiha, it is good for everybody behind them. It's good for everybody. Now some scholars, major scholars in schools of thought, they had said that when the Imam's finished, that you need to you can read it yourself to yourself. So you'll see in some schools like what is called the Shafi'i school, that the Imam pauses after he reads the Fatiha. He'll pause enough time for people in back of him to read it, because he knows that they're reading it. Other schools, like say the Hanafi schools, get a little advanced, where you don't have to do that. So he wouldn't pause that long. Okay, but the point is that what the Imam does suffices the group. And the proof of that is that if the Imam is standing and a person comes into the prayer now, and then he's at the end and he bows, and you come into the prayer and you bow, right? Before he stands back up, then your prayer, that is valid. You caught the prayer in time. You see? And like when you make ruku', right? So if you go, because in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he was praying, and he has this lateral vision and whatever. And so one of the Sahaba came to the door of the mosque, and the Prophet had gone into ruku', right? So then, the Sahabi came to the mosque at the door, and then he went like this, and he walked all the way in. Like that, right? He walked from the door all the way in, right? And so then the Prophet ﷺ, then after it was over, he smiled, and he told him, no, it's okay. You don't have to do that there. Just meet the prayer and there, because it's the Imam sufficient for you. So he didn't have to do that all the way. So what that proves is that person who caught the ruku', he's not reading the Fatiha. And that's why the majority of the Imams will say, you don't have to read it. Okay, so it's not obligatory to read it yourself.
So is it wrong when the Imam is saying Surah Fatiha for you to recite it quietly yourself? Should you just be quiet?
Some schools, this is getting complex now, but in some schools, when the imam says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, then they say it, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. They say Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, then they say it to themselves, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Like that. They say it like that. Other ones wait till he finishes, and then they do the whole thing. Okay? But really, it makes more sense, to listen to the imam. And, if you are taught to read it, then if he gives you that space to read it, then you read it to yourself. But once he starts on the other recitation, stop. Like, don't be reading the Fatiha while he's reading something else. Because you're supposed to follow what the imam's doing. You see?
Did the Prophet, peace be upon him, ever go to war during Ramadan? Like, was there ever a period of time when they were out?
Yes, so we will read, we're going to go over some highlights as we go through the month. But yes, there were a number of, battles that happened in Ramadan.
And they were fasting?
And they were fasting. Yeah.
So it's about winter salah, and whether it's prayed after Qiyam during the last 10 days. So I guess it's what time do you pray winter in relation to your?
Yeah, this is a little complex for new Muslims, but the point is that there is another extra prayer called witr, which is the odd prayers. And then it was done after you have Isha, 4 rakats, 4 units, then 2 rakats sunnah, normally, and then there's witr, which is odd. For most of the imams, it's 3 rakats. In the Maliki school, you could also do 1 rakat for witr, because it means odd. And witr is normally done, the Prophet ﷺ said, make the witr prayer your last prayer of the night. So that's supposed to be the end of your prayers. And so in the masjids, they will do the witr, but technically speaking, you shouldn't go home then and pray, because you made the witr. If you intend to make more prayers at home, then hold the witr and do it after the prayers at home. You see? Because it's supposed to be your last prayer at night. But the masjids will do the witr to complete everything for the musallis, for the people who are praying, so they can just go home and they can sleep. They'll complete everything. Okay, so there was a general question there that's not dealing with Ramadan. Okay, before I go to this general question, before it's too late, next week, Friday, we're going to have another class here to continue on. And then the following week, when Ramadan will begin, right, Friday we will not have the class, but we'll have it on Sunday. But in this case, it's going to be 1 hour before the breaking of the fast. So we're going to stream online in case somebody can't make it. You could catch the class online, islam.ca. It'll be 1 hour before the breaking of the fast. And inshallah, we will break the fast here with something light, right? Make the prayer, and we'll come back and we will have a meal. So this is a meal for, the new Muslim circle and friends. Because for many non-Muslims, new Muslims, and I've seen this before, Ramadan can be lonely, right? If you don't have a family. Everybody goes to their family and they eat and whatever. So this is a new Muslim breaking of the fast, so you can get the spirit of coming together, with everybody, on the breaking of the fast. So inshallah, we will be doing that, for 3 Sundays. In the 4th Sunday will be the last 10. It's a really special time, so we won't do it on the last Sunday. But the first 3 Sundays we'll do it, inshallah. And we're also thinking and planning that at some point on Eid Day or the day after, based on our feedback, we might have some gathering also, for the new Muslim corner. Okay.
It was a clarification about fasting. So you mentioned earlier that there are circumstances when an adult is not able to or isn't advisable to fast, such as when they have diabetes or high blood pressure. If that is the case, what do they do in terms of making up the fast or specific actions to compensate for not fasting?
Right. So if a person is sick if a person is diabetic or has high blood pressure and they can handle it, so maybe they can do half the month and break it half the month, then that would be making up 15 days. If it is so serious that the person is taking insulin shots, whatever, they cannot fast, or old age, and they reach the point where they cannot fast, so then that person feeds a poor person for every day of the month. So that would be either 29 or 30 days. Then they would just pay the fidya for they don't have to make it up because they can't. Because they permanently can't. If a person has a condition that was classified as permanent, and then they were able to come out of it. Some people can come out of diabetes. They can come out of high blood pressure. Then you can go back like a normal person, it's okay. But as long as it's classified at that point as permanent, then you function as permanent. Because the idea is that the fast is not meant as punishment. Right? It is a strengthening time. It should strengthen our bodies and strengthen our self-control. So this is the idea of the fasting month. So therefore, that's the reason why, Muslims who understand the fast look forward to Ramadan. That might sound strange to somebody on the outside. You're not going to eat and drink all day? Are you crazy? Why are you looking forward to that? Because they don't understand what the fast actually is. They don't understand it, right? And once you get into the fast and then overcome your body, then you're going to start getting a type of spirituality that you can't get any other time of the year. And you'll see it all over the world where Muslims are. Sometimes your personality changes in Ramadan. Hopefully it doesn't go back after Ramadan. But, it's a special spirituality you can get if the fast is done correctly. Okay? So let's try to stick, with these points.
So for the elderly, if they can't afford the 300 or the monthly, what would they need to do if they can't afford it?
If they can't afford it, then they are excused. And one person came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "I cannot fast in Ramadan." So he said, "Okay, you can feed a poor person for every day of the month." And then the person said, I don't have any money. I can't feed anybody. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, "Take this, then take this." And then the person said, "I don't know anybody who's more in need than myself." Right, so that's one of the time the Prophet smiled, and you could see his molas, right? He smiled. He said, "Take it." So it's okay.
Another question, a person with intellectual disability, can they fast?
The pen is raised. If somebody has an intellectual, the pen is raised and they don't have to fast. If it is debilitating, right? If it is something that comes on and off, with the case of a doctor, then it can be monitored. But again, the idea of the fast is not punishment, or it's not to harm ourselves. It's to strengthen ourselves. But that person can also get involved in other things. In Ramadan, they can be reading the Quran. They can basically listen to the Quran being read as much as possible. They can do other things that can help them in this month. Because there's a lot of ways the month can help. Okay, is there a question online? Okay, so the floor is open for any general questions anybody has. This is also a time to ask general questions.
Is witr mandatory?
Excuse me?
Witr. Praying witr, is it mandatory?
No, it's not. No, it's strong sunnah. It is highly recommended. You should try to do it. Strong sunnah. But it's not obligatory. No, it's not the category of obligatory. Because obligatory means if you don't do it, you've committed a sin. It's not in that category.
Someone says wajib.
Yeah, see, that is, again, this is a complication, but basically the majority say when it's wajib or fard. These are two words in Arabic, right? So some people say fard, which means obligatory, and then they say wajib, which means strong sunnah,
Same thing.
right? But in other schools, actually in Arabic, wajib and fard mean the same thing. You know, so the majority take those two words to be the same. But in the Hanafi school, when they say wajib, they mean strong sunnah. That's what it means. So alhamdulillah, we will continue on, with our classes. And next Friday, inshallah, we will continue. And then hopefully in Ramadan, we'll try to have something for you then. Okay, so have a safe journey home for those who are online and for those who are here. Wa akhir da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If there's anybody